Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to explore a truly remarkable piece of source material. We are diving deep into the fascinating structure, the profound imagery, and the incredible rhythmic balance of a highly revered text, Surah Ar-Rahman. Our goal right now is to completely break down its architecture. We're going to look at how it builds an entire worldview. I mean, literally from the vastness of the cosmos down to everyday earthly life and all the way to the afterlife, all by using a brilliant system of dualities and vivid contrasts. Let's just jump right in. Okay, let's start with the absolute most prominent feature of the text. So which of the favors of your Lord would you deny? Listen, this isn't just a throwaway line. It's a powerful, recurring refrain that anchors the entire narrative. As we analyze the source material, you'll see this single question repeat constantly. It acts like a heartbeat or a rhythmic pulse. It continuously pauses the narrative just to challenge the audience directly. And what's absolutely vital to understand here is that this question isn't just rhetorical. Actually, it's a major structural pillar. Every single time the text presents a marvel of creation, a terrifying warning, or a beautiful promise, it circles right back to this exact question, basically forcing the listener to acknowledge the divine reality.
Section 1. The balance of creation. Cosmic precision and justice.
Before the text even starts exploring the earthly wonders we experience every single day, it establishes a massive, unshakable foundation of universal order. It immediately paints a picture of a universe ruled by absolute precision. The sun and the moon, they don't just float randomly, they move by precise calculation. Even the stars up in the sky and the trees on the ground are described as prostrating, submitting entirely to this grand divine design. The text explicitly states that the heaven was raised and a balance was imposed. And why does this matter? Well, because the text demands that living beings mirror this exact cosmic justice. It explicitly instructs the audience to establish weight and justice and do not make deficient the balance. So the physical laws of the universe are directly tied to the moral laws expected of its inhabitants. Pretty fascinating connection, right?
From that vast, mathematically calculated cosmos, the focus suddenly zooms right in on the Earth. And notice the vivid sensory language the source uses here. The Earth is specifically laid out for living creatures. It doesn't just broadly say, there is food. No, it highlights fruits, palm trees with sheaths of dates, grain with husks, and scented plants. It appeals to taste, to sight, to smell. It's a deliberate, beautiful showcase of an environment overflowing with abundance, crafted with immense care to sustain life.
Moving on to Section 2, Signs in the Natural World, the motif of dualities.
Now, what's really interesting here is how the text begins to heavily utilize pairs, or dualities, to structure its message. We see this architectural genius introduced immediately in the very creation of sentient beings. On one side, we have man, formed from something incredibly tangible and earthly, clay, specifically compared to pottery. On the other side, we have the jinn, created from something completely ethereal and untouchable, a smokeless flame of fire. This establishes the dual audience the text addresses. So whenever that repeating refrain asks, which of the favors of your Lord would you deny, the you is actually plural. It's speaking directly to both of these distinct creations simultaneously.
And this motif of pairs, it doesn't stop with living beings. It expands outward, pushing the concept to the horizons themselves. The text refers to the Creator as the Lord of the two sunrises and Lord of the two sunsets. This phrasing is just beautiful. It emphasizes an absolute divine dominion over all spatial and seasonal boundaries. It encompasses the entirety of the East and the West, the shifting of the seasons, basically framing time and space as yet another set of dualities under divine control.
This brilliantly illustrates the central idea of balance in the natural world. The source describes two massive bodies of water, two seas meeting one another. But despite their vast power, there is a barrier between them so that neither transgresses. They remain perfectly distinct. And from both of these seas emerge treasures, specifically pearl and coral. It's a stunning visual metaphor for the entire theme of the text, these incredible opposing forces existing side by side, held in perfect, productive harmony by a divine boundary.
The text even weaves human engineering into this grand earthly design. It acknowledges ships with sails, describing them as being elevated in the sea like mountains. I mean, think about that imagery. Even these massive feats of human construction, conquering those two seas we just talked about, are ultimately framed as belonging to the divine. It's another favor to be recognized, completely subject to that overarching cosmic balance. But right at the peak of describing all this earthly abundance and magnificent creation, the text brings us to a stark, unavoidable pivot. Everything we just looked at, the dates, the grain, the towering ships, mankind, the jinn, The text states unequivocally that everyone upon the earth will perish. The ultimate reality is mortality. Out of all the breathtaking complexity of creation, there is only one enduring permanence, the face of your Lord, owner of majesty and honor. It is a profound grounding shift in the narrative, literally a reality check.
Which brings us to Section 3, the Day of Judgment, the inevitable transition.
So we've moved from cosmic creation to earthly abundance to the stark reality of death. Now the text moves to accountability. It issues a direct, chilling challenge to that dual audience we established earlier, the company of jinn and mankind. It dares them to try and pass beyond the regions of the heavens and the earth, but the answer is immediate. They cannot. Passage requires absolute divine authority. The text warns that if they attempt to flee this ultimate jurisdiction, a flame of fire and smoke will be sent upon them, and defending themselves will be entirely impossible. The exact same balance that kept the universe running smoothly is now the inescapable force bringing them to justice.
Notice how this builds into a terrifyingly vivid sequence of the end times. The imagery is incredibly striking. It begins with an apocalyptic sky, the heaven itself splitting open and turning rose-colored, specifically described as being like oil. Then comes the accountability. The criminals, they won't even need to be questioned about their sins. They're going to be known instantly by their marks. The physical reality of their punishment is intensely described. They are seized by the forelocks in the feet, forced to circulate between hell and scalding, maximally heated water. It's a relentless, visceral depiction of divine justice enacted.
Finally, Section 4, the Gardens of Paradise, structuring the ultimate reward.
This explainer hits its climax right here, shifting away from the intensity of punishment to the ultimate, eternal reward. And as it does, it beautifully and systematically returns to that core structural motif of pairs. The text lays out the precise architectural symmetry of paradise. It doesn't just describe one heaven, it describes two distinct tiers of dual gardens. Take the first two gardens, reserved for those who feared the position of their Lord. They have spreading branches, two flowing springs, two kinds of every fruit, and beds lined with luxurious silk brocade. But then, the text says, below them both are two other gardens. These are described slightly differently, dark green in color, featuring two spouting springs, specific fruits like dates and pomegranates, and fine carpets. The text meticulously categorizes the ultimate reward, maintaining that perfect, calculated balance we saw in the very beginning of the cosmos.
In describing the companions found within both sets of these dual gardens, the text notes their absolute purity and beauty. But look closely at the specific phrasing used. They are untouched before them by man or jinni. Notice that callback? Even at the very peak of paradise, the text deliberately references back to that foundational duality of mankind and jinn. The structural consistency from the beginning of the text to the very end is honestly just remarkable.
Nestled between the descriptions of these magnificent gardens is this profound rhetorical question: is the reward for good anything but good? It acts as a gentle, almost philosophical bridge. Remember earlier when we talked about establishing weight and justice and not making deficient the balance? Well, this is the ultimate fulfillment of that law. Absolute divine justice dictates that pure good must be met with pure good. The cosmic equation is perfectly balanced.
And so, the source text concludes by circling back to the overarching majesty of the Creator. Blessed is the name of your Lord, owner of majesty and honor. This perfectly wraps up the grand narrative arc we've traced today. We moved from the calculated creation of the universe, through the sensory abundance of earth, right into the stark reality of mortality, through the terrifying precision of judgment, and finally resting in the perfectly structured dual gardens of reward. And above it all, governing every single piece, sits the absolute majesty of the divine.
As we finish up today, I want you to consider the sheer literary and thematic impact of what we've just explored. Think about how that relentless, almost haunting rhythm of, "So which of the favors of your Lord would you deny?" interacts with this meticulously structured universe of pairs: sun and moon, earth and heaven, man and jinn, reward and punishment. It forces active engagement. It demands that you don't just passively observe the balance of the universe, but actively recognize your place within it. So what does this all mean for us? I hope this explainer has given you a clearer, more structured understanding of the profound depths hidden within this extraordinary text. Thank you so much for learning with me today, and keep seeking out the brilliant structures in the texts around you.